Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another video for Eve Echoes. Today is Friday, which means it's time for a developer Q&A session. Now, for those of you who don't know, each week the developers of Eve Echoes, NetEase, take 4 questions that have been posed by the community, answer them, and then post that response to the official Eve Echoes Twitter account, and apparently Facebook, but I don't touch Facebook with a 10-foot barge pole if I can help it. Now, I understand that not everyone has time to go on social media and troll through for these things, so what I do is I have a look at these Q&As, I read them out, and I then give my personal thoughts and opinions on them. Now, if you have a particular question you would like to ask the developers, there is a link in the description down below that will take you to a Google document that you can fill in, ask your question, and if your question is one of the ones that is chosen to be responded to, you will win a month of Omega. Now, if you enjoyed this video as well, do check out the rest of the Dev Q&A series. I put them all into a playlist, and there is one a week, so there's always one of these to have a look forward to and get an idea of what is happening in Eve Echoes. Anyway, let's jump right in then on this week's episode, which is the developer Q&A for the week of the 18th of August through to the 24th of August. And there we go, the anniversary event is over almost as soon as it started. First question. With the introduction of scanning and source radius being a huge factor, has there been any thought to a sensor drone to allow larger ships to sacrifice some security or combat ability for the ability to be aware of a sensor scan in the system? Thanks for the consideration. Oh boy, I thought we were done with this. I thought we were done with scanning, but hey, apparently not. Wilson responds, since we've already developed a rig that reduces source radius, we have no immediate plan to introduce modules that serve a similar function. But we're thinking of other countermeasures. For example, increasing the probability of players receiving alerts that someone is using a scan on them. We will try to come up with more solutions to balance scanning and counter-scanning. I'll be completely honest. I think we are genuinely at a point where it is already well balanced, if not currently already in the favour of the people being scanned. I know that's controversial, but hear me out. Currently, we've just had a nerf to narrow resonance scanners that means it is much more likely that you will receive a notification, and scanners are going to need to either use dedicated scanning ships or a lot of scanning rigs to actually get their minimum scan radius down low enough to be able to scan certain ships, let alone without notifying them. There's been a big nerf on this already. When I was doing the worm video recently, when I took the Frosty Worm fit out for a spin, I spent 6 hours jumping around low-sec looking for people to go in on, and ships that just you would not expect ran instantly. Like, I was having Myrmidons, Prophecies, Dominixes, even a Geddon running away from me. There is already plenty of counter-scanning possibility in the game. If you get scanned and you get caught, it's because you were a freaking idiot and did not plan for that eventuality. You either didn't bother to fit anything to try and protect yourself, either rigs that reduce your source radius, or things like warp stabilizers and warp core optimizers and things like that, or you were just sitting there AFK away from your phone, at which point, in either case, I have zero sympathy, and I'm done talking about this now. For crying out loud, people, literally every time I hear someone, like, oh, but I can be scanned now, it makes my blood boil. It genuinely makes my blood boil, because it just feels like I actually have to play with the game now, and I hate it. Anyway, let's move on before I give myself a hernia. Is there going to be faction wargames with pre-made tiers, at least 5v5 or stuff like that in the future? Near future, if possible. This feature is already on development, says Melos, and will become live in the game around September or October. Thanks for your suggestion. Now, I already knew this was a case. The developers have confirmed previously that they were going to be adding a pre-made function for faction wargames. Some people were, crying that, crying's the wrong word here. I'm not sort of doing it. I mean, like, people were saying, like, I really wish it would have launched. See, this is what talking about scanning does to me. People were saying that, why did this launch without the ability to fly in a pre-made? And I sort of get where those people are coming from, but 2 things. 1, if you're a new pilot trying this out for the first time, how bad is it going to be to go into a full team of Tech 10 pre-made? Like, if we've got 10 people, all of whom are fully skilled into frigates or destroyers, all on voice comms with each other, and you end up going against that with a random bunch of people, you're just going to get absolutely slaughtered, and that sucks. Ultimately, the first mode we've had for Faction Wargames is very much a tester. It's there to, you know, sort of dip the toes in the water, let people get a feel for what this is like. So I already knew that a fleet queue was on the way at some point, and I'm glad for this. I'm glad that it is a separate mode, though. They're not just going, oh yeah, fine, you can put fleets into standard mode, because that sucks. That would really, really suck. Not everyone can fleet all the time, and you'd be at a major disadvantage if you're not in a fleet with voice comms. So having it as two separate modes, I think, is absolutely vital. I'm amazed at how much faster this is coming than I thought. September or October is a lot quicker. I was expecting October, November, possibly even as late as like a Christmas update for that. So I'm really glad the devs are working on that. Looks like Arena coming soon with a pre-made mode here. 5v5, yep, could be 5v5. I think 5v5 would be a good number for pre-mades. I think anything more than that and it becomes a little bit harder for certain people to get a fleet of that size. Anything less than that, you lose all the tactical capability. I don't know. I think 5v5 would be a good number for a fleet queue. Obviously not confirmed. They haven't mentioned anything about how many ships that would actually be. We do also know Tellus Fox, who is one of the developers, has spoken with some folks in the Russian community. Some people have sort of mistranslated a lot of what he said as, oh, this mode is coming and that mode is coming. No, what he says is we are looking into the possibility of other modes in the future that have different ship types and things like that. I would love, personally, to see a cruiser variant later on that actually has some logistics in there as well. I would actually love to see that things like the Burst, the Navitas, and all of those ships, the logistics frigates, actually being added to the current mode we have. I think that'd be a really, really interesting thing to add in there, possibly even some of the E-warships. I think there's a lot of stuff we can add even to the mode we've already got, let alone adding on new modes. There's so much potential for Faction Wargames. Who knows, maybe one day even an esport. Moving on, though, from that dream. Now we have question 3. Will you consider lifting the weekly limits on the LP store and Concord Pass? Oh god, please don't. As well as the Faction Wargame Arena's time limits due to the incoming school year. The answer from Reagan: to ensure the game experience for most players, we will not lift the weekly limits on the Concord Pass and LP store, thank goodness, but we will make some of the missions simpler to complete through weekend events and other ways. Thanks for the suggestion. That is a really nice balance. Now, first of all, I need to quantify the oh, please don't. I know I say stuff like this, and some people are like, oh, Benzie hates the community. Really? Is that what you think of me? Anyway, one of the reasons I don't think that you should lift the LP store limit and the Concord Pass limit is because these are not in here to punish people. They're in here to just, you know, help. They're actually here to help lower people. If you don't have the time to grind Faction Wargames all day, every day, you know, literally all 3 of the time slots for the full 2 hours, if you are not capable of doing that, you are at a major disadvantage if there is no weekly cap. The idea of a weekly cap is that it stops people just going, I need to be online, I need to be online, I need to be online, and just grinding it through to maximum and burning out. It's a limiter, basically, to stop you burning yourself out on it. And we've already seen people on when it's full day Sunday go like absolutely ham for Faction Wargames, and they're like, oh, I hate it now. I spent literally 12 hours yesterday doing it and I never want to touch it again. That's why we have these limits. It means that for folks who don't have the capability of engaging with this constantly, they're still able to reach the same limit as people who have the time and inclination to be on it 24/7 if possible. It's to help people who don't have that time or capability still not be left behind by the people who do. I like that. It's the same with the weekly limits on Concord. The idea of a battle pass, now look, from a developer's standpoint, the idea of a battle pass is to actually get people come into your game on a daily or weekly basis. It's to draw players back into your game and keep the community going. Right, if you remove a limit on a battle pass, then you're going to get people who literally on day 1 of the battle pass sit there and grind the entire thing to completion in a day or 2, and then they're burnt out and they don't touch the game for another 2 months until the next battle pass comes out. That's not the intent behind the battle pass. So again, there's also the fact that people feel the need to grind. If you just say this is how far you can go with this, people without a limitation will just jump into a game and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going until they are literally burnt out on the game and don't want to do anything with it anymore. By putting that weekly limitation in, it gives you a goal that you can aim for. I know people who complete that weekly limitation on the first day each week. For people like me who have multiple alts, it's nice to do a couple of hours here and there on them and still reach that weekly limitation. I feel like I'm still getting into the games the Battle Pass is enticing me to, and I'm still getting the most out of it as well without burning myself out. That's the key point here. I do really like, though, this simpler missions and adding more through the, adding like double points or something through the weekend. Dead by Daylight does this really quite nicely as well. Like things you have each week, a blood point plus event where any killer or hero you use from a certain list, you get double rewards for playing with them over the weekend. It's a cool way to get people to engage over a weekend and still help them actually achieve through a goal, helps them catch up on people who otherwise wouldn't normally. Now, there's no limitation there, but the theory is sound, is what I'm getting at here. I like the fact that there could be a way that over the weekend you get double points or something, just to help you grind in those last couple of days and make sure that you hit the cap as well. I think taking the cap off is a bad idea. I think helping people reach that cap faster, that's a good point. That's fine by me. Finally then, we have faction ships that utilise shield field modules, the Nightmare, the Phantasm and the Succubus, but we don't have a faction ship that uses armor link modules. Is it a dev's way of promoting shields? Really? Or devs are planning to add faction ships for armor links, as an armor pilot would to get his hands on a faction-based solo-y on armor... Solely on armor tanking? So, okay, first things first here. If we're talking about ships that can use an armor link compared to using the shield field, using a shield field on a Succubus, a Nightmare, or a Phantasm isn't really so much about being a Guardian. You're not really being... You can. I'm not going to say you can't. I'll have people in the comment section, actually, the Nightmare's one of the... Yes, I get that. The point is I'm saying that I don't feel that the Sanchez Nation ships having those shield field modules is designed to basically make them Guardians. It's not. It's mainly for the passive bonus they get themselves, to up their resistances. It's a module they can equip that is going to make them significantly larger in signature radius, but give them a much more resistance on their shields. That, to me, is the design intent behind that. And I get that there's no armor link version, but then again, armor links don't help you out solo. Armor links do not affect your ship in any way. You just absorb damage from other people. I've actually got an armor link video coming. Whereas a shield field module, if you are flying solo and you activate a shield field module, your ship gets a notable increase in its resistances. Armor links don't do that. Now, if they're saying here, as an armor pilot, I'd love to get my hands on a faction based solely on armor tanking, there are two. The Blood Raiders are based on armor tanking, and the Serpentis Corporation are based on armor tanking. I don't think this is a dev's way of promoting shields. In EVE Online, you still have those same 5 pirate factions, and Guristas, Sanchez Nation, and Angel are primarily based on shields. Angel, somewhat less so, and I think this is actually something a lot of people miss in EVE Echoes. The Dramiel, the Cinnabal, and the Macariel have no actual direct bonuses to shields. There's nothing in there at all that says they should use shields. They don't have shield boost bonuses or shield resistance skills and things like that. They don't even have a bigger shield tank than they have armor tank. They have the same amount of HP on both. So theoretically, I like to think of Angel as actually being possible to armor tank. And it works surprisingly well with them as well, especially since the fixes to armor tanks. So we're kind of looking actually at a situation where you've got 2 dedicated shield tank factions, Guristas and Sanchez Nation, and you've got 2 dedicated armor tanks with the Blood Raiders and the Serpentis Corporation. Then you've got Angel, which can kind of do either and also quite like speed tanking. So I don't think this is a dev bias. I don't think it's anything about promoting shields. I think it's just they've gone with what EVE Online did, which makes sense, you know? Anyway, the answer here from Nero. We had discussions about whether to add faction ships that use armor link modules at design meetings, but failed to reach a consensus. We're now considering adding this feature to Sisters of Eve cruisers and battleships, further empowering these ships, but this is not finalised and requires further discussion. Now, I'm actually not against this. I think this could be an interesting thing to do with the Sisters of Eve ships. I'm not particularly sold on them at the moment. I need to do more content on this, because people keep asking me, oh, the Astero looks amazing, is this the PvP god ship that it looks like? I've already told you that I don't rate the Gamma at all. I think the Gamma is literally a Condor 2 interceptor that, you know, fell down to tech level 7, and that's basically it. Whereas the Astero I don't rate as a PvP platform. It's not a great hunter. It's good at bullying people. It's great at sort of kicking out other frigates and things like that, but anything like... Heck, I don't think that an Astero is going to take out a worm, put it that way. I don't think an Astero is going to go toe-to-toe with a Daredevil. I don't think an Astero is properly going to kill a Succubus. And again, people are going to argue with me in the comment section here. I just don't rate the Astero. Yes, okay, it's got that, like, whole thing that it's Covert Ops Cloak, and then it has no... you know, no delay between dropping the cloak and starting to lock on. But remember, cloaks drop your scan resolution, and the Astero actually doesn't have that great a scan resolution to start with. So by the time you've put a Covert Ops Cloak on it as well, it takes a long time to lock on. At which point your opponent already has either a positional advantage if they want to get away, they've got time to flee, or they can start doing damage before you lock on. And the Astero's DPS isn't anything crazy. Like, this is not the big ambush predator people make it out to be. I think adding the Nesta and the Stratios having armor links is interesting. I mean, it could work. It's not like, well, armor links and shield field modules don't exist in EVE Online, so it's not like the Sunless Nation ships have shield field modules in EVE Online. They don't, so that's a new thing. I'm not against new things in Echoes. People seem to think that Benzie always wants Echoes to be EVE Online. I really don't. But that's a cool way of doing it. In my personal opinion, this is where I'm going to get a little bit controversial here. I think that Sisters of Eve could be an interesting way of adding armor link modules to faction ships. I also think we could possibly look at adding some of the sort of subtly hinted at ships to the other factions. I'm not saying every faction suddenly needs a faction destroyer. I think that would be cool, and there is certainly... there's precedent for this. I mean, if you look at EVE Online, there are even dreadnoughts and things for certain of the pirate factions. So I don't think them adding, like, the occasional destroyer or battlecruiser or something to a faction is necessarily a bad thing. I mean, heck, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a destroyer or a battlecruiser just because those are the ones they don't already have. If you look at the Angel Cartel in EVE Online, not only do they have the Dramiel as their faction frigate, they also have a faction frigate called the Chemosh, or Chemosh, however you want to pronounce that, which is like a Dramiel, reskinned, and has sort of the sinusoidal field beacon lighters and things like that to it. It's a pretty unique ship in and of itself, so you could theoretically have a Vigilant or a Vindicator that uses armor link modules. I would not like to give it straight to the Vigilant or the Vindicator, because I think they're already very, very good. Adding armor links to them I think would be too much, but having a variant of them that uses armor links could be pretty cool. I think having a Blood Raider battlecruiser that uses armor links could be really, really cool, or a Blood Raider destroyer that uses armor links. Heck, a Serpentis thing that uses armor links. I think adding extra ships like that could be really cool, and it would be an interesting way to help differentiate EVE Echoes from EVE Online. We've already seen the Yunjung being added. We've already got a load of ships in EVE Echoes that just don't exist in EVE Online as well. For example, just off the top of my head, the Breacher Assault. In EVE Online, you have the Breacher. The upgraded, in inverted commas, Breacher is the Hound. But then, you know, EVE Online doesn't have a Hound 2 or a Hound 3 either. Whereas the precedent exists for these guys to add new ships. And I think Sisters of Eve is a nice, easy way of doing it. I kind of feel like it makes Sisters of Eve a little bit too much of a wishy-washy, they kind of do everything, but at the same token it does also really fit the Sisters of Eve backstory and lore, that they are defenders and rescuers and things like that. Giving them armor links could make sense. I don't know, I'm throwing out a whole ton of ideas here because I'm sitting in a swelteringly hot car in Masuna fishing camp, because this was the only place I could find quiet enough to record this. I'm just spitballing ideas. I'm throwing stuff here at the wall and hoping it sticks and maybe inspires some folks. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on that in the comment section down below. I think it'd be an interesting discussion to have there. Would you like to see Sisters of Eve get armor links? Certainly it would give them a bit more of a niche to have. It fits with their lore, but maybe we could also put some of these onto things like Serpentis or Blood Raider, and I don't know. I think that if you gave, for example, Blood Raiders a destroyer that could use armor links, you could give Serpentis a battle cruiser that uses armor links. You could then give Angel Cartel a destroyer that will give them another frigate, the Chemosh. You could give Sanchez Nation another ship. You know, you could give every faction another ship, but not necessarily all at the same tier. So, like, this one gets a frigate, that one gets a destroyer, this one gets a cruiser, that one gets a battle cruiser. I think there's a lot of potential and really cool stuff you could do there. Anyway, folks, that wraps it up for this week's developer Q&A. Please do let me know in the comment section down below what you think about these 4 questions. Am I being too harsh on scanning? No, I'm not. What do you think about Wargames? What new modes would you like to see added? How do you feel about the point limits and that on the Concord store, Concord Pass and LP store? And what do you think, certainly the most important question that I would love to get your feedback on, what do you think about armor links in factions or new faction ships? Anyway, folks, thanks for watching this right the way to the end. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.